Hey everybody, this is the Two Old Bucks, and this is episode 210. Can you believe it? And with me is, of course, Old Buck.
Old Buck 210. No, Old Buck Dave. Yeah. How you doing?
Hey,
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I look forward to talking to you today because there's a bunch of things that I ran into since last we spoke. And I just thought
Let me get a pen. I'm going to write these down now.
And no, you won't need to write them down, but I thought this was interesting. These are the things I've learned and seen and discovered since last I talked to you.
Okay.
So, I discovered that when you make contact with a big operation and you give them your email, you will then be inundated with advertisements and emails. I was reluctant to do that.
I'm shocked. I'd never heard of that before.
Well, let me tell you, what got me was I was waiting on a specific email, a notice, and what I discovered is the plethora of emails I got just obscured the notice I was looking for. And so it became problematic. And I wanted to say, listen, why don't we get our business done before you tell me my product is there so I can pick it up before you start sending me this other stuff. So that was one thing. I discovered that my Medicare Advantage plan, they used to send a stipend every 3 months of $60 for healthcare products and so on and so forth. And I waited patiently for my little stipend. It turned out it's now $25. And I said, isn't that interesting?
Well, you know that Medicare Advantage is a ripoff. You understand that?
I do. I do. I don't know how else to get around it. So, I mean, I'm surrendering some authority there for no co-pays or something, but it's all rigged.
There's no free lunch, just so you know. There's no free lunch.
The system is broken. We know that. So I'm going. Another thing I discovered that I didn't know, I got a good deal on Brazil nuts. I like nuts. I'm always eating a handful of nuts. I can tell you, to my dismay.
We can go several ways on this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I got some information on Brazil nuts, actually.
I can see you smiling.
It's your story. It's your story. Go ahead. I'm interested to see what happens here.
I can see you smiling, but I realize that there are ramifications of, eating handfuls of nuts every day. So I'm curious about, every time I tried to smash one of them, I never really got the nut out of there. I always got some fragments. So I Googles how to break a Brazil nut, and the ones I'm eating are shelled, so they can go in like popcorn. I can take a handful of them things. So I'm reading about this stuff, and it says, do not overdo these nuts. They've got a lot of oils in it, and something called selenium or something.
Selenium, yes, that's what I was going to warn you about.
And I said, holy smokes. So the last bout had several of the symptoms that warn you against that.
Selenium withdrawal.
Yeah, I had several of those symptoms. I said, maybe that was what caused all that, because I was just wolfing them down by the handful. So I found that to be interesting. Brazil nuts come with a warning. So that was new. That was all new to me.
I didn't realize it came with a warning, but I was reading about nuts just a couple of weeks ago, and it said you should not eat more than 4 in a day. If you eat more than 4, nuts, that's 4.
Yeah,
you are increasing your selenium levels to levels that could become toxic to you.
Well, who knew? I might have exceeded that.
I'm guessing you did.
I'm guessing I did too. So I learned this. I discovered that too.
Okay, we're starting the new year off educationally. This is great. Okay.
I also I was thinking about like New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, and I just wanted to tell you that I calculated the amount of exercise I got on day 1, January 1. I said to myself, I actually walked 690 feet on day 1, which was basically 25 times from the couch to the fridge.
That's a bad start. That's a bad start.
As far as I got that day, because I gorged on bowl games and so on and so forth. And I said, this could be a problem if I don't change my habits already. I'm going to be in trouble. And the last thing that I discovered, well, actually, the last two things I discovered. One was I had stuck a pair of perfectly good, dirty sneakers outside because my wife said they were not so perfectly good.
It's like perfectly good.
Yeah, really. I could see them. They're my work sneakers, so they were beat up pretty bad. So
pretty
she
bad.
says she kind of said you need to get rid of them, and I said no, they're still good. Still have some soul left to them. Stuck them outside, and I put them. I sort of leaned them against a little wall there, and I realized that there are a lot of creatures that move around outside, especially the anoles, the little brown anoles, Anoles, anoles or something. I think they're pronounced. They're a little Cuban lizard, a little gecko kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're not the ones. They're not the ones that can walk upside down in your ceiling. That's a different crew.
Okay.
Yeah. So these guys are more on the ground, and they like to display their little chest.
The ones that puff out.
Yeah, the ones that puff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
tough
those
guys.
little buggers, yeah,
tough
they
guys,
they get in everything. So I said to myself, when I pick these shoes up, I always have to shake them out because I don't know what's going to be inside of them. And then it occurred to me, this is you heard it here first. I said, I'll bet you if I nailed a pair of shoes or a shoe to a tree, it would make a perfect nest. It would make an ideal nest.
So
yeah. There's a palm tree right outside my window. I think I'm gonna run a ladder up there. I'm gonna nail it to the tree and see what creature decides to inhabit it. I mean, it'd be perfect for birds, squirrels, and unfortunately vermin. I mean, there's some vermin to run around up and down the trees. The little we'll call them rats. That's our pathway. They jump up the trees, run across the palms, and they run across your roofs.
Run across your roof.
Yeah. So
drop on the screen. Yeah.
So I'm thinking this idea, if it catches on, you could go into a forest and with your old sneakers, nail them to a trees out there, and pretty soon there would be tennis shoes.
You're always thinking.
There'd be tennis shoes stuck, nailed to trees all over the country, and it would have instant homes for all the various creatures who don't, or maybe too lazy to make their own nest. They jump right in this thing. So
as long as they don't have good smelling abilities, right?
You imagine that? Look, there's a $900 pair of Nikes nailed to the tree up there or something like that.
Oh.
Hey, and last but not least, Dave, and I know this amuses you because we've talked about this many times. I'm totally fascinated by the industrious ant. They're out there. I see them all the time. They're everywhere. They're just completely everywhere. And there are some that I pass. I pass these things and I see their little mounds. And I get down on my hands and knees and I take my hands and I cup all the dirt from that little mound. You can see a little hole in the middle of the mound. I cup that dirt and I push it right on top of that thing. And then I look at my watch and I carry on. And then I come back. I walk past the same mound later on that day and it's open. It's always open. And I marvel of where how that could be open. How do they start from the bottom? Do they pull it all back in? Open the hole, take it all back out?
That tells me two things. Number one, ants are incredibly industrial and hardworking dudes. And number two, you got way too much time on your hands. I keep warning you.
That's exactly what happened in the last 2 weeks. I had way too much. No big projects going. No, electrical things that occupy my mind all day long. So I always find that totally. I don't know what it is about. It's like me and them. You know what I mean? I look at that and think, how can I defeat you if I do this, or if I cover that hole or something? Can I do it? And I just marvel at those
Well,
guys.
your ant tails are legendary, on here.
They are. They
We've
are.
got
I
people are
battled
still
them.
talking about you sharing a donut with an ant, with an
Well,
ant farm.
it was an apple fritter,
Apple fritter, excuse me.
and I wondered why the little glisten, the glistening, the sugar on my apple fritter was moving, and I was bound and determined not to let them get ahead of me on this one. So true, but there's something about those guys. Every time I walk this route, and I do a lot of walking,
Except,
and
except not January 1st, you didn't.
yeah, I didn't go out of the house that day, but I just found them. I just found it to be absolutely fascinating that they can recover from that and that. So, but you were telling me something about an experiment, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I was watching an experiment the other day where they were showing the how the ants can work together as a team. This was a maze, and they had it was a T-shaped object, a flat T-shaped object, and the ants wanted to get it from point A to point B through this maze because for like the other end of the maze was home, I guess. And it was fascinating to watch the top view of this as they would try one way and nope, that didn't work. And then they'd back it out, and they're all working together on this thing and they're all talking to each other apparently in ant talk, But, they eventually figure out a way to get it through the maze. It was amazing.
It is amazing. So, all right, hats off to the ants, and off we go in 2025.
Yeah, we made it. We made it.
We made it, and I, I told this before in one of the early episodes that the four of us. So I have a picture of the same four guys, and they said, "Do you think we'll ever live?" This is 1964. He said, "You think we'll live to see the year 2000?"
Yeah.
2000.
Wow.
And I said, "Man, I don't know. That's a long way away. That's going to be could be dicey,
It is a long way away now.
It is a long way. Yeah,
Fortunately.
Anyhow, away we go. So what's happening on your side?
Well, we had
what are your thoughts?
we had my son's crew in here over Christmas for 6 days. Had a great time. Did a bunch of stuff. And of course, the day we left, my wife and I both came down with colds. So I'm kind of on my final days of my holiday cold here, but feeling much better. I was able to walk a mile yesterday. I tried a couple days ago. I got like a half a block and said, I can't go anymore. So I've improved significantly. That's funny. And I got a note from another note from one of my ex-cycling buddies, Rich. I've talked about him before. He's the guy who taught me how to be tough on a bike.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he's up in Pittsburgh. He says, I did my, New Year's Day ride. It was only 13 and a half miles. It was 30 degrees out. He says, thought I was going to die. And he says, man, I got to lose weight. He said, I'd have to lose 30 pounds to be considered obese.
But, he's a big guy?
He's gained a lot of weight. Yeah.
Oh,
but he's trying to get back into a more regimented exercise program.
Was that the same guy you told the story about? He was having a bit of a heart issue? No.
No.
Different. Okay.
No.
This is just somebody who wants to harden up a little bit.
Yeah.
Decide to go out in 30-degree weather on a bike. There you go. That ought to do it.
Do some rule number 5.
Yeah.
But what I really wanted to talk about today is Jimmy Carter.
Okay, I know Jimmy.
As we know, Jimmy, our 39th president, died on December 29th at age 100.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was, when he was in office, I was not a big fan of his. Sometimes he seemed both arrogant and naive to me. Seemed like he never tried to build any coalitions. It was tough to get he was an outsider, and he kind of maybe pushed that too much, that I'm an outsider. And became a one-term president. Okay, he got beaten by a movie actor, right? A guy named Reagan, I believe. But after he was when he became an ex-president, a past president, I mean, he's done some great things. Of course, he established his conflict resolution center. He did things to achieve peaceful solutions in conflicts around the world, a lot of human rights stuff. Did a lot of stuff fighting diseases worldwide. He got the Nobel Peace Prize in, I forget which years.
2008, I think it was.
Okay, all right. And of course, in the Habitat Humanity, that's what everybody knows about. He was a visible, vocal face of Habitat for Humanity, and I think he got a lot of people involved in the whole thing. So, like a lot of people, I said, well, he was a bad president. He was a great post-president. His post-presidency was great.
Well, the presidency gave him a giant platform, and you would say his real notoriety was not so much presidenting, being president. It was afterwards, and he had the credentials, he had the all the benefits of that, and I mean, of course,
you look back.
I met Jimmy.
I didn't know you met Jimmy. Oh, you did tell me that. You did tell me that. Yeah.
I met him and Rosalind. They were in the car with me, and I was showing them around.
That's when you were in MI5, right?
Well, just it was me and him. Rosalind,
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
And one of his security guys.
There are 4 or 5 listeners out there.
We had a fun. It was a fun day. They were absolutely marvelous couple. They were so down to earth that I didn't. I wasn't tense about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't nervous about driving them around. Although that was pretty safe. I wasn't on any kind of
there were no
asphalt road where I could run into another.
There were no Russian agents following you or anything, or they wouldn't catch you. They wouldn't catch you.
But he was absolutely. I've had great respect for his ability to walk amongst his people without fear.
But as I look back, and as a lot of people look back on his presidency, I think his presidency has grown in stature over the years. I mean, you look the Camp David Accord, where he got a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel that holds to this day. Like, who else could do that? Nobody else did that, right? Got the Panama Canal Treaty. He gave Panama Canal to the Panamanians. Now that's apparently up for discussion again. Of course, he did that because he wanted to reduce the idea of American imperialism in Central America and South America. He did some other things that we're not going to kill the presidents that we don't like down there in Central and South America. The SALT II nuclear treaty, okay, with the Soviet Union. The big reduction in nuclear weapons. He created the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, which are both under fire again for those are good things. Those are good things. He acted like you're saying. He acted on the principles of what was right, not what was politically expedient, not what would make him the most friends in Congress.
The weird thing is that if somebody does something up that then becomes established and let's say good, it's working, apparently we have a system that someone can come back later on, a few years later, and undo those things. So if I build a pyramid for to be buried in, someone come behind me and disassemble that pyramid and
okay. But I just wanted to get that out there, that I think the guy has been underestimated. I think he's like Eisenhower. We were just tiny little kids when Eisenhower was elected, but he got a lot of flack. All he does is play golf, But in subsequent years, he got a lot of recognition for stuff he did while he was in office. Kept us out of war. He did a lot to build our infrastructure, our defense, he
would have been part of the Marshall Plan too.
The highway system. Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of good stuff, and I think Jimmy's the same way. I think his stature's only going to grow in the future. So
as well,
hats off to Jimmy.
As will the 2 old bucks. When they look back on this,
we're legends in our own minds.
Yeah, when people from another century look back and say, these 2 guys, I'm telling you, they were ahead of their time. Not by much, but
not by much.
A few weeks.
So on a lighter note,
On a lighter note.
on a lighter note, I would like to make a couple recommendations.
Hmm.
All right. So we had, had the family in, and then we got cold. So we've had a lot of slug time where we're just kind of sitting around, can't go out. Um, so we've started watching two series that are a couple years old, I guess. And one is called Slow Horses. Have you heard of Slow Horses? It's
Never
on
heard of
Apple.
that.
It's a couple years old. I think uh, they're in their fourth season now. We're probably on, I don't know, maybe the end of season two, something like that, as we're kind of watching one or two a night. Uh, Gary Oldman, the British actor, he plays Jackson Lamb, and he's head of this MI5 group of outcasts. These are people who have been put in this building called Slough House, hence the name, the Slow Horses. People that have been screwed up, okay? People who've screwed up, done something dumb or bad, but we're not fired from MI5, okay? They're part of MI5, but they're
Is it a sort of a comedy?
well, it's sort of it's a spy thriller slash dark comedy, all right?
Okay.
Uh, Oldman is spectacular. He's the head of the Slough House, the Slow Horses, and he's dressed like Columbo, except his clothes are dirty. All right, his hair hasn't been washed in a month. Uh, he smokes, he drinks,
Hmm.
he's smelly. He farts in front of people. It's terrible. He's
Lot of British
but
humor there.
he's a lot of British humor. But he's brilliant. He's brilliant. So it's about the interplay between the regular MI5 and Slough House and the different nasty elements that crop up from time to time. He's great. Kristen Scott Thomas is kind of his counterpart in MI5, in the regular MI5. So they're kind of friends and foes. It's really well done. I would recommend Slow Horses to anybody.
This is on Apple. You have to
It's on
download.
Apple, yeah. I don't know if it's on anywhere else, but we're watching it on Apple TV, yeah.
Mhm.
And the other one we're watching on Apple is my sister-in-law recommended this. It's called Bad Sisters. All right. This takes place in Ireland, in Dublin, Ireland area, I believe. About these five sisters, one of whom happens to be married to a guy who has just died. So the series opens. They're at her husband's funeral. And the other four sisters who are at the funeral, they seem quite pleased that he's dead. All right. So that's how things open. It's like, uh, so and then the series goes back in time. It does all these flashbacks, and it's flashes everywhere, actually. Uh, the sisters prior had decided that he need killing. All right. He was just a bad guy. So I don't want to tell you a whole lot, but there's a lot of twists and turns, there's a lot of subplots. Again,
And
really, really, really
how can we
smart.
watch this one? How can we
That's
watch
on
this one?
Apple TV also, yeah.
That's
So
also on
so you
Apple
have to
TV.
you have to get an Apple subscription. That's like, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks a month. You can
And
get
you
actually
stream that.
actually I believe they're offering a 3 month free right now. I think you can do a 3 month free trial. So there's your chance to see it for free.
It's interesting that these, other than like the big movie theaters, not the movie theaters, but the movie production companies, there's so much talent that these streaming services can put together some fantastic stories. You know what I mean? Depends on, I guess, who proposes it and who buys it. I
Yeah,
mean,
and you're not limited to 2 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes. I mean,
yeah.
you can take the time to develop some pretty convoluted stories,
Hmm.
which these have done. Again, I would recommend both of them, particularly Slow Horses. It's really good. Now, they do get to a couple places where they're doing the corny shoot 'em ups, but you got to get past that. But it's pretty sharp. It's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation.
Any letters from afar?
We did get a couple. We did get a couple. Let me find my letters from afar here. Well, speaking of murdering people,
Oh, I was hoping to get some replies on
we
that
did
one.
got a couple. We got a couple on the Luigi thing. You know, as if you recall, I said he's a murderer. It's just that simple. A couple listeners sided with me and said, "Yep, he's allegedly a murderer." So thanks to the 3 or 4 people that wrote in a short note saying agreed with me. And also got I got a response on the my date with Neanderthal woman.
Mm-hmm.
Good old VV1 came through, and she sent me an article on how long Homo sapiens and Neanderthals coexisted, and that we didn't just wipe them out; we actually interbred with them for a lot of years, and some people show up to 4% Neanderthal DNA. So there.
So there's an interesting fact, meaning it wasn't like boom, one ended and another one started. So species essentially just don't die instantly. The involving stage can be a few millennia there or something.
And as it turns out, they have not died completely because there's still Neanderthal blood in some of us. You know.
Well,
So for what it's
darned.
worth, I'll be darned. Oh, I want to. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking about the if this Luigi thing was still spinning in my head, and I thought to myself, you remember that there were one thing you saw the article I sent to you. It depends on who you shoot.
Ah,
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like
yeah,
whether you get the full force of the special forces that you can muster to solve the issue, as opposed to
or if you shoot a couple of schoolgirls, that's just another.
Another shooter.
They're not terrible.
But if I think the classification is there any responsibility for somebody who does hold the power of life and death to be responsible or to be held accountable? You know what I mean?
Is that a question or statement there?
That's kind of a question. I mean, if someone comes up behind you and pulls a gun on you, he's a murderer. But if you're someone who, with a pen, can make someone live or die, what are you? What is a governor who issues a execution notice?
Mm-hmm.
See that it's a. I mean, I guess that's probably
that's a whole podcast right there.
I was gonna say that's a conundrum for the PhDs, maybe. but you know, if I'm concerned about the welfare of ants, I'm certainly concerned about the welfare of people. And then, you know, what kind of a guy that would, you know, fill in an anthole digging this out, you know, you'd have a thought on that. So anyhow, and that's my I'll throw that out there to anybody who wants to ponder that. So you were going to say something else, Dave. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I was going to say a couple things, I guess. You know, sometimes when we empty a container, I like to keep it, all right, and use it. You know, put nuts and bolts in it in the garage,
there you know,
put tiny little cycling parts that I'd otherwise lose. And my wife respects this. So recently, and you can only see this, I guess, if you're going to, if this version goes on YouTube, right? So my wife has this, it's called Innis or Ini body butter. And she finished this and she says, "Hey, do you want this jar?" Yeah, I said, "Yeah, absolutely." She had it all washed out. So I opened it up. And there's a little insert in the bottom, which you're not going to be able to see.
I can see it.
Because my camera only wants to focus on one spot, it appears.
Yeah, I see.
All right, and I can't get it out. Can't get it out. But it's definitely a separate insert. So I look at this. This cream is made in Ireland. There's another plug for Ireland. All right. And if I look closely at this little insert here, which is like virtually impossible to get out, it says dentures. And there's spaces for name, room number, and date. So this is a multitasking container, apparently. You know, they put this in the bottom of it. You could either use it for this, for a body butter, or you can use it for your dentures in the hospital, I guess. So I thought that was pretty clever. I thought that was pretty clever.
Hmm.
You're not impressed? Not impressed.
First thing I thought was, oh yeah, it'll come out. I would probably end up ruining it, taking it apart. But you were
I
going to
did.
put
I started fighting it. I thought, no, I'm just going to leave it there. And I
so
started reading it.
And you were pleasantly occupied by its design. And did you?
I'm turning into you, right?
Yeah, you
Too
were.
much time in my hands.
So now you're going to put little bits and pieces in it, are you?
I am going to put little bits and pieces in it.
Attaboy.
Attaboy. My reason for living, huh? Yeah. I don't know. Hey, one other thing I wanted to warn people. This is a public service announcement.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call this the scam of the week. You've heard of alkaline water? If you see it at the grocery stores or at the drugstores, along with the outrageously priced bottled water, we can now buy bottled alkaline water. All right, and it typically costs like twice as much or 4 times as much as regular outrageously priced bottled water. And it claims all sorts of health benefits, reduce your blood pressure, your blood sugar, cholesterol, genital warts, baldness. You know, I mean, you go out and read some of the claims for this stuff. It's ridiculous. All right. It's water. All right. So the pH, the theory being that that alkaline things will make you healthier. When this stuff hits your stomach, of course, your stomach is high acid, it gets neutralized. It becomes
water.
It becomes water. Yeah. I don't know. So we just want to warn some people out there. If you're spending money on alkaline water, don't.
If it makes you feel good by spending $6 for a bottle of water, then you see this is my thoughts are these. I want to be one of those guys that come up with something like that, something that's really expensive, practically it's effortless to make. You know what I mean? You put it in a fancy bottle, you're making a ton of money off of it, knowing full well that once it's ingested, it merely becomes water. And it's not going to hurt anybody. There's not going to be any after effects. And you convince everybody mentally that you're feeling better, which brings us back to the old placebo.
Yeah, honest.
Which we've discussed on many occasions, the old placebo.
Yeah.
So
I've got an old friend who's used to work for a mobile phone company, and the company will remain nameless. And she said, it's the greatest thing in the world. She says, you know what we're selling? We're selling air. Okay. We're selling air.
That's what they're selling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's working.
Well,
it's working. Anyway, we're probably getting close to the end here. I'm getting the
getting the red flag.
Getting the 2-minute warning here. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, let's call it. And I would say that from Old Buckdale, we want to thank everybody that tune in to us, and we have a great time. And we hope that maybe we throw some ideas out there or make people think about things. We're mostly right. We certainly want to wish everybody to carry on, and and you and I will work on chalking up another number at the end of our.
That's right. We got another one coming up here.
Yeah, we got another one. I'm telling you, it's scaring me. And so I would like to say thank you very much. And this is Old Buck Dale saying we'll talk to you next time.
And this is Old Buck Dave right behind him saying, great talking to everybody again. Great seeing you again, Mr. Dell. And we'll be back next time. I got hell for saying next week because we don't do next week anymore. So it'll be next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.